Need for Speed Unbound is out. And you know what? It's actually pretty decent. Yeah, I don't know about a 9 out of 10 Need for Speed game, but it's definitely pretty good. I definitely think people are still kind of in that honeymoon period. We've seen it with previous games like 2015, Heat. You know, Heat had a very similar vibe at launch. A lot of people liked that game. And obviously we didn't get any updates and we all know how that turned out. I think Unbound right now is in a pretty similar spot. It's definitely a step forward from Heat, but it's still missing features like cops in multiplayer, basic multiplayer matchmaking, modes like Time Attack from Need for Speed 2015, fan favorites from other games in the series like Lap Knockout, Speed Trap, Team Pursuit. They all don't make an appearance in this game. You pretty much only have race modes, Speed Cross, and a half-hearted drift mode, which is probably the worst in years. Not to mention, clipping issues are still a problem, track width isn't in the game, lowering cars can be iffy with some of the cars in the game, they don't go all the way down. Damage is slightly buggy, crash cams are back, because that's exactly what we wanted. And the physics, they are definitely a step forward, but having played the game for almost about 30 hours now, I can definitely say they are still a far cry from a lot of other racing games on the market. These are just some of the issues I've picked up in the last 30 hours of me playing. And this is not to say that I've not been enjoying this game. This is probably the most fun I've had in a Need for Speed game in quite a while. And with all these kind of step backs, there is step forwards to kind of negate that. But I just wanted to mention those problems to say that this game is not perfect, but I still see potential in where this is all going. The racing is fun and intense. Some of the new cars added are exactly what we wanted. The RX-8, the Eclipse, the 190E, even the new Lotus Emira, all cars that we wanted to see in the game. It reflects urban car culture. And I think the only thing really is we need way more of it. But for now, the potential is there. Even if some of the parts for these cars are absolutely fuck ugly, like no lip spoiler for the Emira sends me insane. Bruh. But for now, it's just potential. And potential for me, I get PTSD from that word.
There is no way to sugarcoat this!
3 of the last 4 games had potential. That's 2015, it had the art style, the tone, the post-launch support, the overall feel. I think that's a game that was truly let down by its physics. Like, if the physics were good in that game, I think a lot more people will have good, positive things to say about that. Payback was a big
Need for Speed Payback, it's coming out.
Heat was a step forward for the physics and cops, even if the game was left dormant and not much really changed. And Unbound, I think, is a much bigger leap forward than Heat was. The physics, although they are still a bit fucky when you get into the higher classes, they are a step forward. The overall polish and stability with how well the game runs, like I'm not getting any pop-in anymore. The single player in terms of its length, like I'm on week 1 at the moment. I've been playing a pretty healthy mix of multiplayer and single player. And the length seems really good. I know you can rush it, but I've been taking my time. We've waited, what, 3 years for this game to come out? I'm not rushing through the single player. You know, the structure, the overall style, although I think the characters are probably the most cringiest they have ever been. Why can't they just not talk like normal people?
Well, I never asked them to. I never needed any of that fake father shit.
Tess, stop. Bruh. They literally talk like Twitter bots. Like, I can't deal with it. I literally am gagging for the day when we have like a Midnight Club LA style story in a Need for Speed game where they actually just speak like normal people.
What, you been shopping before we race? Sure. Picking up new underwear? A few bits and pieces.
And they have funny jokes that you actually laugh at because they don't speak in Gen Z. But yeah, I've not got much to say on the single player yet because I'm still playing through it. I kind of want to formulate my own opinions on that before I talk about that, and I will do the whole full review spiel, you know, once I've done that. But it's absolutely more complete than previous games. I don't think anyone is questioning that. This time we actually have a multiplayer, even if it is super bare bones. In comparison to Heat, which literally did not have any. But there's a lack of some really key and basic features that every single game in 2022, regardless if it's a racer or a shooter or a sports game, should have, that Need for Speed does not have. But without meaningful content updates, I really do fear that Unbound will have the same fate as Heat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about it. So I think we have to talk about Endgame, really, because, like, You know, the single player will kind of get you hooked, and then the multiplayer will keep you playing. This is common formula for... This is common formula? It's what Forza does, it's what COD does. Like, there's loads of games that follow this kind of... this formula. And I think I've probably played a lot more multiplayer than most. I asked you guys on my Twitter if you played more single player or multiplayer. I'm probably in the minority of people that have played probably more multiplayer than single player at the moment. Few reasons for this. Obviously, progress doesn't swap over. When I'm playing single player, I feel like I'm kind of like playing for nothing, because like the story has, I have no incentive to play through the story like when they speak like bots and I like to show off my progress, so the only place I can do that is in multiplayer. Not to mention all the billboards you smash, all of the collectibles you get, and all those other things. You have to do that all again in the multiplayer, so it's like, why would I bother doing that in the single player? I'll just go through, get all the free cars you get through the story mode, and put all my time into multiplayer. It just makes more sense. But anyway, after you finish the single player, there is limited multiplayer races that typically use the same areas of the map. I'm assuming it's not going to be like this in single player. Obviously, I've not played it all the way through, but it's a big problem. I feel like I go through this highway literally all the time. The invite system, well, it's only maxed out to 4 people, which is mad. So you can't even fill a PvP lobby with friends. And you're going to struggle to do that in a normal lobby anyway, because I struggle to get into races with more than 2 people all the time. It just seems that people don't accept your invites. Then really needs to be some basic multiplayer matchmaking in this game. I can't believe speed lists just aren't an option. And this will only get worse if they do start adding more content in the game, and they add like, say, free roam challenges or whatever, because people aren't going to do the races. And then all those races that you need to do to unlock the cars that you need, like, you know, all of them, you're not going to be able to do that because you're not going to be able to get into races. So this is something they definitely need to look at. All of this combined, you know, makes the re-unlocking of content that you've already learned in single player, in multiplayer, even more long, because you have to search for lobbies where people might back out. You might not have enough people. You might be racing with 2 people, so you don't get the full cash bonus of a full lobby. It just makes grinding in multiplayer so much more annoying. Take this from someone who is halfway to max rank after, what, a week? Come December time, I can see a lot of these things compounding. Maybe not now, because the game's only been out for a short period of time, but once people play through the game, all these issues will compound, and they really need to sort this out. Really before Christmas, but I just can't see that happening. Right, that's enough of kind of my view on what's going to happen after you finish the single player. Now let's actually talk about the multiplayer and the good things first, because it's not all bad.
Oh my god.
Classes. Oh my god. You know how many years I've been waiting. You know how many years I've been waiting for such a basic thing. They are finally here, and there's loads of them. This will make balancing a lot more varied. You know, if cars in S Plus are literally just, if the RSR is OP again, and that's all you see in S Plus lobbies, just go into A class where, you know, it might be a little bit more of a balanced pool of cars. Forza does this. I think Need for Speed will probably have that same effect. I can't see people driving in S Plus because the game is fully broken with it. But classes, yes, we needed that. And we actually have playlists, and you can play in certain classes. That's something which I think is really going to benefit the game, because I think the game is best played when it's a little bit slower. Not to mention the actual racing. When you do get into lobbies, it's fun, it's intense. Grip racing is actually viable this year. Whether it's faster or slower than drift, I haven't done any testing yet, but I do want to do a video on that where I have actually some conclusive evidence to show whether grip or drift is faster. So just hold tight, that's coming. Ranks, challenges, levels, the unlock system, even though I don't like how you have to grind for everything you've got in single player. Like, if you didn't already know that and you finished single player and you finished everything, you had all the cars in the game, then you go over to multiplayer, you'd be pretty pissed. Thankfully, I knew that, so I'm not going to go through that struggle. But yeah, unlocks, ranks, challenges, all that stuff. Such a basic incentive to try different cars and play the game. Like, I want to unlock the Cayman in the game, because if you didn't already know, I own a Cayman, and I'm actually forced to use cars that I probably wouldn't have already used. And yeah, it's something I've been asking for years. Such a basic, simple feature. Thank you for that. And that's probably about where the good things kind of end, really. 4-player parties, I kind of already mentioned that. PS2 games allowed you to have more than 4 people in your party. you need to crank that up to 16, to be honest. Speed lists and matchmaking, kind of already explained that as well. It's a basic thing, matchmaking. It's a basic thing. Like, we should be able to just search for races and get into races without any problems. Just give me a little thing on the D-pad, like it was in Burnout Paradise, where I can just search for a race and I can turn off traffic, I can turn off collisions, you know, how Forza does it. That's how it needs to be in Need for Speed. Cops. One of Need for Speed's standout features that pretty much no other racing game does well right now is not leveraged at all. I'm not talking about them just being in the open world. I'm talking about them being in race modes, cops and robbers from like Undercover or Team Pursuit from Carbon. I'm talking about like kind of raid style modes, you know, kind of like a DMZ style mode from COD in Need for Speed, where you have to defeat like Cross or something in like a dark zone kind of vibe. The cops are quite easily the best and most underutilized thing that Need for Speed have, and they need to make the most of that, because right now it's so basic. When I'm saying all these things, you're probably like, oh my god, that'd be so cool. Yeah, it fucking would. And they need to leverage it more, just like legacy cars and legacy content, you know, legacy mode, legacy cars, all this stuff. They need to make the most of it, because right now there isn't even any of that in the game. You can't even get the M3 GTR unless you're on EA Play. That's an L. The netcode, still buggy. Encouraging ramming in the challenges. Who thought that was a good idea? Who in their right mind thought it would be a good idea to unlock cars via ramming? I could understand that if there was like a road rage mode, or like, you know, it was for police or something. But I don't even want Need for Speed to go in that direction. So let's say that's also an L. Boom. That's a mega L. And then the level cap is limited to 99. Again, don't know who thought of this idea. Just make it unlimited. People in my friend list have already reached max level. The game has been out for a week as I'm recording. That is not good. You need to bump that up. Give us prestige mode or some shit. Just bump it to unlimited and keep the cash rewards going every 50 levels or every 100 levels and give me 1 million or whatever. But just do something to reward people grinding. I just don't understand the point in level caps. Never have in games. I want to grind and I want to show off my little boy for grinding. So to round up this video, I don't want to come across as too negative, because I really do enjoy playing this game. Probably the most I've enjoyed a Need for Speed game in years. All this comes from a place of seeing the potential in what this franchise can truly be. And I do think in some ways what we've been given is probably the bare minimum of what I expected. I went in with low expectations because of how poor the last few games have been. And they have definitely made a step forward from the other games, but that's not a big statement. Heat was already, you know, all the way back in terms of what I've expected. So to go one step further than that, you know, I'm just glad we have a game that is stable-ish. And these problems are all, like, if we don't get any content updates and the game stays how it is right now, these are all the problems we're going to go back to in 3 months' time, being like, oh, the game needed this to stay alive. The game needed this to stay alive, because this is exactly what happened with Heat. I watched it as a content creator, a full-time content creator, through its whole life cycle, go through that phase. I saw people get excited, then disappointed when nothing came. So what I will say as a Need for Speed fan is take your time through the single player. Don't rush this game, and let's just see what they can actually do in live service this time. Some of the things I've mentioned in this video, like dark mode, like a DMZ mode, and, you know, leveraging cops and all those kind of things, like, they are pretty, you know, they would have to be detailed expansions, you know what I mean? And then, like, some of the stuff I've talked about, I don't think is you know, as deep. Like physics, the Unite guys can make physics that work for a game, yet the guys who make the game haven't done this for almost how many years? When did Rivals come out? 2013, 9 years. Right, Clark. Your boy still had his virginity 9 years ago. Things have changed. I think for me, all eyes go towards update 1 now. And I'm not a hater, so don't kick me out of the creator program. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. At the top, I'm going to have a little poll for what I should do for my next video. So go and vote for that. Vote for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.